Hello, IM students. Today we're going to learn about solving two-step equations. You've already learned how to solve a one-step equation, so a two-step is just adding an extra step to what we already know. We're going to start with example 1, which gives us negative 2x plus 4 equals 8. Now, the goal, which I'm going to highlight, is to get the goal is to get the variable, which usually represented by a letter. The variable is the unknown. That's the number we don't know. The goal is to get the variable x by itself. In this equation, it would be x. Well, step 1, we have to get the term that has the variable alone. So in this case, the term would be negative 2x because that has the variable with it. So right now we want to get negative 2x by itself. To get negative 2x by itself, you must get rid of the plus 4. The 4 is being added to the negative 2x. And we know to get rid of the 4, you must do the inverse, which is the opposite of what is already being done. So the inverse of addition, because it's a plus 4, is subtraction. So, if we're looking at the problem, I now have negative 2x plus 4 equals 8. What I like to do is draw my line to separate both sides so I know whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side. So, in order to get rid of that plus 4, I have to do the opposite. And the opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. And I have to make sure I do that to both sides. Well, I know that a plus 4 and a minus 4 cancel each other out to make 0. So that means all I have left on this side is the negative 2x, which I bring down, equals 8 minus 4. Well, I know 8 minus 4 is 4. Now, step 2 is to get the variable x by itself. So step 1 was to get the term that had the variable x with it, which was negative 2x by itself, which we did. We now have negative 2x by itself. But now we're going to take it a step further, and this is just like our one-step equation now. Now we have negative 2x, and we have a negative number and a variable. That means together, that means multiplying. So we have negative 2 times x equals 4. So step 2 is to get the variable x by itself. The operation between negative 2 and x, like I said, is multiplication. To get rid of that negative 2, we must do the inverse operation, and the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So, I'm going to draw my line again to separate my sides. And now I have the negative 2x equals, well, I know that's 4 because I did 8 minus 4 above to give me 4. So now I have negative 2x equals 4. And I know the inverse operation of multiplication is division. And I know that I have to do it to both sides. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Because this is saying negative 2 times x. And I want to get rid of the negative 2 to get x by itself, because that is my ultimate goal, is to get the variable x by itself. That is my goal. So, negative 2 divided by a negative 2 cancels out. I know anything divided by itself is 1. And that's 1x, which is what I want. 1x is the same thing as x. It's just like saying I have one pencil or a pencil. I have x or 1x. It's the same thing. So, negative 2 divided by negative 2 cancels out to give me 1. And that gives me 1x, which is what I want because I want x by itself. I now have 4 divided by a negative 2. And I know that 2 goes into 4 2 times. And I know that a positive divided by a negative, think back to what we learned about a week ago, is a negative. Because if you love to hate, you hate. So x equals negative 2. Our goal when solving any equation is to get the variable x by itself. We did that by getting the term that has the variable alone, in this case negative 2x, by doing the inverse operation of plus 4, which is minus 4 to both sides, which gave me negative 2x equals 4. Then I did my second step was to get the variable by itself this time, which is negative 2x equals 4. I knew negative 2x meant negative 2 times x, so to get that by itself, I have to divide by negative 2 to both sides. And that got me x equals 2. Let's look at one more example. Let's look at example number 2. Example number 2 tells me that w divided by 2 plus 6 equals 7. So, again, my ultimate goal is to get the variable by itself. And in this case, the variable is w. So for step 1, again, I have to get the term that has the variable alone. So that would mean I need to get w over 2, or w divided by 2, by itself. And to get w2 by itself, you must get rid of the plus 6. I have to get rid of this plus 6. The operation between w2 and 6 is addition. To get rid of 6, you must do the inverse or the opposite of what is already being done. So the inverse operation of addition is subtraction. So I have w divided by 2 plus 6 equals 7. Again, I'm going to draw my line to separate my equation, my equal sign. And I know that to get rid of this plus 6 I have right here, I have to do subtract 6. And I have to do it to both sides. Well, I know a plus 6 and a minus 6 cancel each other out and give me 0, which is what I want because I want the w over 2 by itself. And I know 7 minus 6 is 1. So step 1 is complete. Now let's look at step 2. Now that I have the term with the variable by itself, w over 2, I need to now get that variable w by itself. And the operation between w and 2 right here is division. Well, to get rid of the 2, we must do the inverse operation. And the inverse operation of division is multiplication. Well, I know from my problem above that w over 2 equals 1 is my new equation. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in w over 2 equals 1. And I'm going to draw my line to separate the equal signs. So, to get rid of this w over 2, I have to do the inverse operation, which is multiplication. And that means I have to multiply both sides by 2. And when I put these parentheses next to it, that means multiplication. Well, I know that 2 times w over 2 is really 2w over 2. And I know that 2 over 2 cancels out to be 1, which will give me 1w, or just w, because I know w and 1w are the same exact thing. And I know that 1 times 2 is 2. So my answer here would be w equals 2. Thank you guys for joining, and good luck on your practice.